Hello, and welcome to a different type of episode of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. If this is the first time you are listening to us, well, believe me, it's going to be very different to what we usually have, because usually we are talking about leading remote teams, online collaboration, talking with guests about working in distributed organizations. But today I'm going to talk about Virtual Not Distant, the company that is behind the podcast, because we have a new set of workshops to offer and a new program. And I just wanted to let you know, I don't usually talk a lot about what we actually offer, because this podcast is our contribution to the remote work space. It has been for maybe 5 years now. I've stopped counting. We're in episode 285, I think this is it. So this is our space where, of course, we promote ourselves. It's also part of content marketing. But in many ways, it's where we share our opinions, where we advocate for different ways of working, where we bring to you, our listeners, ideas and experiences from other people in the space, the remote work space, the future of work space, the leadership space. But today, I wanted to share with you what we're doing. So if you're a regular listener, I don't know, maybe you want to wait until the next episode, which is going to be fantastic. It's all about asynchronous communication, which you know I love. If you're a new listener, if you want to listen to what we do, great. If not, you have loads of episodes before this one that you can listen to. So Virtual Not Distant, founded in 2016, we've been offering training, workshops, facilitation services, some talks, some time, all around helping managers to lead their remote teams. Sometimes this has taken the form of working with a whole team, sometimes just delivering workshop or management programs. And over the last last 18 months, 2 years, I'm recording in October 2021, that space has become really, really full. It was already getting quite full. Just in December 2019, we had an episode called something like Remote Has Gone Big, Now What? Or something like this, because the space was already starting to gain some momentum. And there were many companies offering the same kind of thing as we do. And then, of course, with COVID, all the training companies can now deliver online, which used to be something that was quite unique to us and lots of other companies, actually. But now everyone can do it. Also, people have figured out how remote teams are different to co-located, and they're adapting their can't believe I'm saying that, their co-located leadership programs, they're adapting it to suit remote teams. And of course, all the great facilitators who have been facilitating team sessions, taking teams through long decision-making processes, etc., they've also gone online. So what do we do at Virtual Not Distant? What is our role now? What can we offer? And so I've come up, it's been quite a personal decision, I've come up with 4 set workshops and 1 program about podcasting for connection to offer. Because tailoring the programs to organization is really, really time consuming. And sometimes by the time you get to deliver, things have changed a lot, especially now. So maybe this is a little bit of a short-term approach, but actually this is what's happening. And in any case, I think it's time to really define what we can offer. What is something that we think we're perfectly positioned in some way to offer? So the result is a new management training program and a program of podcasting for connection. If you're a regular listener, you probably have heard about podcasting for connection before, so I'm going to leave that for a while and explain the training program. We have 4 workshops now. 1 around motivation and visible teamwork. These are all for managers and team leaders. one on a facilitative approach to online meetings, one on loneliness in remote teams, and one on introducing asynchronous communication. And the wonderful thing is that they are all a collaborative endeavor. And delivery-wise, there's only one workshop that I'm delivering on my own, and that is the motivation and visible teamwork, which I've actually developed by taking everything that people are doing in the online space and distilling that into a set of principles. So I'll tell you about that in a second, but the meetings one is actually led by Simon Wilson and Pinar Akaya, who are long-term facilitators. The one on loneliness is delivered by myself and Richard McKinnon, Dr. Richard McKinnon, who's an organizational psychologist with whom I podcast in My Pocket Psych. It's his show. I'm a co-host. And then the new thing around asynchronous communication I'm developing with Simon Wilson again. And I'll tell you a bit in a second about that. The motivation and visible teamwork, this is all about looking as a manager, as a team leader, at how can we create processes in our team that increase intrinsic motivation. I've used self-determination theory, which is a very well-known, established, classic theory, and merge it with the more contemporary approach of using technology for team communication. So it is quite a tech-oriented. Sometimes that is a disappointment for participants because they say, well, it's all about the tech. And my reply is always, well, there's a difference. That's one of the differences between being in a team that is based in the office and one that's online, is that your use of technology is what differentiates the practices. Of course, the leadership principles are the same, the collaboration principles are the same, but how you execute them has to involve technology. So I really try to merge both worlds. And so that is that workshop around how do we show up as leaders to help our teams adopt these practices, and how can we increase motivation through increasing a sense of autonomy, relatedness, and competence. So that's one. I'll now go on to the one that actually came out of our collaboration when we did a piece of client work. And this is more a program than a workshop. It's a program on facilitating meetings. It's taking that real collaborative approach and seeing running meetings through the eyes of the facilitator, even if you're the manager. So that is to really, for lack of a better word, empower the team and really make sure that the meetings belong to the team. And for that, there's a workshop. I think it's a 2-hour workshop that goes at the beginning of the program. Then there are one-to-one sessions with Pinar and Simon, because what we found is that, of course, the set of principles and everything, we need to be sharing those. And if we can be in a meeting, then it's experiential. It's an online meeting. However, what individuals are struggling with is really diverse. You've got from not being comfortable with the technology because you haven't sat down and really thought about what you can do with it and just had time to be comfortable with it, right to not being sure about having a process for decision making or some practices that make discussion more inclusive, etc. So we found that, well, Simon and Pinar, who have been delivering this for one of our clients, have found that the experience actually, even though it seems contradictory that you would do something that has to do with online meeting training in a one-to-one, actually works. And then there's another workshop at the end to consolidate. So it's a whole program, and this is our premium package just because of what's involved. So that is about being great at facilitating online meetings. And of course, if we are supporting people to have great meetings, we've got to support them in having great asynchronous communication, which, as you know, makes remote work sustainable. However, something we found is that it's just really difficult to adopt if you're not used to it. And there's loads of things that come into place, like, well, for a start, the team dynamics, of course, preferences, but also the rhythm of the team's communication, also the nature of the interdependence of tasks, etc., etc. So this program came from lots of conversations actually that Simon Wilson and I have been having, but also from an episode that we did on this show. This was great, where we looked at facilitating using asynchronous communication. So it was more about helping a team do something, not just with a real-time intervention. And that's a great episode, by the way. Have a listen. It's episode 282 from the 16th of September 2021. And we are putting something together that is going to take a bit of time because we want the delivery of it to have, of course, a big asynchronous component. So that's in progress, but if you're interested in that, let us know. Let us know. It will accelerate our process. And finally, we have a workshop on overcoming loneliness in remote teams. And if you are a regular listener of the show, you will know that 2 years ago, we had a whole series in collaboration with Shield GEO around loneliness in remote teams. Now, Brie Kajati in particular, she created so much content and something that actually it is talked about, but it's not covered a lot. We hear a lot about productivity and stuff, but there's not much at the moment around loneliness. Also because, of course, that's part of mental health, well-being. So it's usually part of a larger conversation. But I realized that we had so much material and I thought we have to do something with it. It's important. It's not something you can easily find out there. So Brie and I are starting to write a book around it. Meanwhile, Sandra Thompson was running a conference on emotional intelligence and she was looking for people to contribute with content around emotional intelligence, but also remote work. So I pitched her an idea for a talk with Dr. Richard McKinnon, who I co-host My Pocket Psych with, his show. I am the rookie. He knows what he's talking about in that one. I just ask questions and play the voice of the listener. But we did this session on loneliness in remote teams, which was called Beyond #Watercooler, because what I've been seeing during the forced remote work period was that there was a lot of talk of loneliness, but we were talking about loneliness in remote rather than loneliness in remote during a pandemic, because both contexts can support different solutions and there's different reasons and different factors that contribute to us feeling lonely, whether we're in a pandemic or if it's in less pandemic times. I was also seeing a lot of the suggestions around this theme to be purely about the social and just making sure that you have a coffee or that you do something, in inverted commas, fun. Hence, Beyond #Watercooler. Of course, have a water cooler channel. And all of those things are important, but I think that the conversation is in danger of being simplified. And Brie showed that, well, we needed 7 episodes to start to touch on the subject. And of course, Richard's a psychologist, so whatever we come up with is going to have some depth. And we've now got this workshop, which looks at understanding what loneliness is, how it manifests, some of the signs of it, increasing our own self-awareness around it, and then starting to know how to facilitate conversations around it, and also designing the work around it, which takes me back all the way to the workshop on visible teamwork, which is visible teamwork you can connect a lot around the work, and that can help people feel more connected, less lonely. Again, I'm being very careful with the word loneliness here because sometimes loneliness sometimes is part of other kind of well-being. Are we talking happiness? It's a very specific thing. Hence why I brought the psychologist in, because as you can see, I need some clarity around the whole thing too. So if you are looking for a program for your organization, for the managers, you could book all 4 workshops. We've got motivation, meetings, asynchronous communication, and loneliness. Talking of loneliness and connection, for a few years now, we have been working on Podcasting for Connection, which is a program for organizations to develop their own internal podcast to create a sense of belonging and even a sense of community, I dare say, in the organization. Now, I'm ready to deliver this because I am fronting the program and you will get to work with me. Unless you desperately want to work with someone else. But at the moment, we're just starting, so it will be me. And the idea is that your organization can create a podcast, which is an audio on demand, that highlights and surfaces those conversations that people are missing overhearing, or that gives visibility to people who are in danger of becoming invisible, or teams, etc., etc. In fact, that's step one in working with someone, is we have to decide what the podcast would be for. Because depending on what you want to achieve, you design the show and the process in different ways. This can be very useful as a way of amplifying culture, any kind of culture change or any kind of culture highlighting you want to do, as in it can help to amplify certain aspects. It won't help you with culture change per se, but it can help you when you're at the end of a culture change program or however you're managing that, then this can actually help you near the end to consolidate some of that by surfacing some of the values or behaviors that you want to see more of and sharing those through stories in the show. That's the first step. The first step is defining what is it for. Then that might be enough for you. And then you're off. That would be great. Stage 2 is that I can actually help with your team of podcasters. And of course, we can have one person, but I really think that the strength of this is in working with a small team, small because it's more manageable, and helping that team create systems of visible teamwork to work together and then start to create the first, say, 4 episodes. And then I let go and the team would continue and it's all wonderful. The third option is actually saying, we love the idea. We don't have anyone that has time to do this. Can you look after us? And then in complete collaboration with the client, then we can design that. I can host it or we can find another host. And actually, in a way, it's quite nice to have, just thinking of this now, but it's quite nice to have an external because that's really going to put the pressure on involving everyone around. Because if you have an external fronting your podcast and no other voices and no other opinions and it's not really reflecting community, no one's going to listen to it because who's this person? So we've got those 3 things. The program is still being, it's been developed and I'd love to try it with you. This is something that you think would be of use. So as I said, a different episode, a much shorter episode, of course, than normal. If you have any questions around this, pilar@virtualnotdistant.com. You can go to the website and we've got all this information there for you. A little bit more information on the workshops themselves, on the Podcasting for Connection program. Any questions you have, just let me know. Always happy to talk to you. As I was saying to someone the other day, it's always great to have a conversation with people, even if they don't become clients, because it gives us a very good idea of what's going on in the world. It's all very well reading about it and talking directly to clients, but actually, when we have these initial conversations, it's when I learn a lot. So that's all for now. Remember that you can sign up to our newsletter, a monthly newsletter with reading and listening recommendations. And through that, you can also grab our free copy of Leading Through Visible Teamwork with just hints at the visible teamwork concepts. Thank you very, very much for listening. A big thank you for listening to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast produced by Virtual Not Distant. If you have something to add to the conversation, let us know through the contact form over at virtualnotdistant.com. I have been your host, Pilar Orti, and I'm signing off now. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.